I am General Patricia Pat Rodriguez, United States Army. First woman to achieve four-star rank in Army history. 28 years active duty, holder of top-secret SCI clearance, 3 combat deployments to Afghanistan, specialist in strategic operations and psychological warfare. My credentials weren't built on politics or favoritism. They were earned through blood, sweat, and sacrifices that would break lesser soldiers. Infantry Officer Basic Course Honor Graduate, Ranger School Distinguished Graduate, Command and General Staff College with honors. But standing in this cramped funeral home in Sweetwater, Texas, population 10,906, watching my own sister live stream my private moment of grief to her 50,000 TikTok followers while whispering, "Look at the heartless bitch who abandoned daddy for her precious stars," none of that military excellence mattered to the crowd of townspeople recording me with their smartphones. My father, Staff Sergeant Miguel Rodriguez, 82nd Airborne Division, served with honor during Operation Desert Storm. Purple Heart recipient, Bronze Star with V device for valor under enemy fire at grid coordinates 320299063421449 during Battle of Khafji. He returned from Kuwait in 1991 with shrapnel embedded in his L3 vertebrae and PTSD that the VA system barely acknowledged. Died at 0347 hours last Tuesday in VA Medical Center Room 314B, alone except for Sarah, while I was conducting classified briefings with NATO commanders in Brussels about Russian military buildup along Ukrainian border. The guilt was eating me alive from the inside, but Sarah didn't know about the handwritten letter in my dress uniform pocket. Daddy's final order that would change everything about this psychological warfare campaign she'd launched against me. Sarah Rodriguez Mitchell, my younger sister by 4 years, never served a single day in uniform, but appointed herself guardian of family honor when I departed for West Point Military Academy in June 1996. Married her high school boyfriend, Tommy Mitchell, immediately after graduation, bore 3 children, worked double shifts at Mel's Diner for 18 years to help Daddy cover medical expenses the VA wouldn't touch. In her tactical assessment, I was the selfish daughter who chose military glory over family duty, abandoning my battle buddy when he needed me most. She had been building this narrative for years, and Daddy's funeral was her perfect stage for revenge operation against everything I'd built in nearly 3 decades of military service. The primary betrayal hit like incoming mortar fire during the funeral eulogy at Sweetwater Baptist Church. "My sister Patricia always put her career first," Sarah announced to the packed congregation of 200-plus attendees, her voice amplified through the church sound system, her iPhone strategically positioned to live stream my reaction to thousands of viewers. Even when Daddy was dying in that hospital bed, calling his name every night for 3 months, she was too busy playing general in some foreign country to come home and hold his hand. The congregation's hostile stares locked onto me like targeting systems, and I felt the crosshairs of public judgment trained on my chest. Every smartphone in that church was recording my reaction, broadcasting my personal family crisis to a world that would judge my fitness for the highest military position in American history. My combat-trained instincts activated immediately as I conducted rapid threat assessment of the tactical situation. Approximately 200 hostile civilians, 12 smartphones actively recording, 3 local news cameras from KTXS-TV and 2 stringers, 1 national correspondent I recognized from CNN's military affairs desk positioned near the back pew. Tactical situation, maximum exposure, minimal friendly forces, deep in enemy territory with 0 cover or concealment available. My aide-de-camp, Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Thompson, 75th Ranger Regiment, positioned himself between me and the primary camera angles, but social media damage was already spreading exponentially across platforms faster than Pentagon crisis management could develop counter-narratives. The psychological pressure was more intense than anything I experienced during 3 combat deployments to Afghanistan. The stakes weren't just personal reputation. They were national security level, with implications that extended far beyond family drama. My confirmation hearing for chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was scheduled in exactly 72 hours at 0900 hours in Senate Armed Services Committee chambers. Every military news outlet, every defense contractor, every foreign intelligence service was monitoring how America's first female four-star general handled family crisis under pressure. One emotional breakdown caught on camera, one moment of lost military bearing, and I'd forfeit not just the chairman position, but every advancement female officers had fought to achieve over decades of service. The weight of breaking that military glass ceiling for an entire generation of women in uniform rested on my shoulders while my own sister conducted psychological warfare against me in front of national media.
The psychological warfare continued at Graveside Services in Sweetwater Cemetery as Sarah executed her masterstroke operation with devastating effectiveness. When the honor guard presented the ceremonial flag according to military protocol, instead of passing it to me as next of kin and senior military member present, she intercepted the tri-folded American flag and handed it directly to her 8-year-old daughter. "This flag represents real sacrifice," she announced, projecting her voice toward every recording device present. "It belongs with someone who understands what family loyalty actually means, not someone who abandoned her dying father for Pentagon meetings." My military bearing held formation despite the psychological assault, but internally I felt something structural collapse in my chest. The visual symbolism was devastating. Grieving small-town daughter versus absent military careerist who couldn't be bothered to attend her own father's final months. They assumed I was another politician in uniform who'd forgotten her roots and abandoned her family for personal advancement through the military-industrial complex. What they couldn't comprehend was the classified nature of my presence in Brussels during Daddy's final weeks, briefing European allies on intelligence indicating imminent Russian invasion preparations that could trigger World War III. 300,000 American service members' lives potentially hung in balance of those strategic sessions with NATO command structure. Sometimes, serving your country demands sacrificing everything personal, including final moments with the man who taught you what duty and honor actually cost. But classified operational security meant I couldn't defend myself without compromising national security intelligence that could save thousands of military lives. The tactical intelligence Sarah lacked would have changed her entire operational plan if she'd possessed security clearance to access the truth. Daddy's final direct order during our last secure video conference from Landstuhl Regional Medical Center, documented in my personal encrypted log at 21:30 hours, February 3rd, 2025, "Mija, don't you dare abandon your post and throw away everything we built together. You carry our family name to the summit of that mountain. That's a direct order from your old man." I rendered proper military courtesy and replied, "Roger that, Sergeant Rodriguez. Mission will be accomplished." 18 days later, he was KIA by cancer, but his final order remained classified information that Sarah's civilian status prevented her from understanding. The irony was crushing. She was attacking me for following Daddy's explicit final instructions. But Sarah's intelligence gathering operation had been more comprehensive than I initially assessed during tactical planning sessions with my staff. That evening at the family residence, the same modest 2-bedroom house where I studied military history while she planned her high school wedding, she cornered me in Daddy's workshop like a skilled interrogator. Surrounded by his military memorabilia, Purple Heart display case, and faded 82nd Airborne photographs from Desert Storm, she presented her ultimatum with tactical precision that would impress any psychological warfare specialist. The workshop still smelled like motor oil and Old Spice aftershave, triggering memories of Daddy teaching me to change spark plugs while explaining why military service meant more than personal comfort. "You have exactly 2 options, General," Sarah stated, emphasizing my rank with obvious contempt, while pulling out her laptop to show me files she had been compiling for 3 years. "Option 1, publicly acknowledge, on camera, that you were wrong to prioritize military career over family obligation. Full apology, admission of guilt, resignation from chairman consideration. Option 2, I release the comprehensive video compilation I've been producing for 3 years. documented evidence of every missed birthday, every canceled visit, every holiday you chose Pentagon meetings over family gatherings, every time Daddy cried because his famous daughter was too important to return phone calls. Her psychological warfare capabilities were more sophisticated than I had given her credit for, and the evidence she'd assembled was devastatingly comprehensive. The operational files on her laptop revealed extensive surveillance capabilities that rival intelligence agencies would admire. Screenshots of news articles about my promotions coinciding exactly with family events I'd missed due to classified obligations. Recorded voicemails from Daddy asking when I'd visit next, his voice growing weaker and more desperate over months of progressive illness. Medical records somehow obtained showing his clinical depression worsening during my extended deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. She'd been conducting comprehensive intelligence gathering for years, building an airtight case against me while waiting for optimal timing to execute her revenge operation. The psychological impact was more devastating than enemy propaganda campaigns I'd encountered during combat operations. My tactical mind rapidly calculated the strategic implications of both options, while maintaining military bearing under direct psychological assault. Option Alpha: accept complete public humiliation, potentially derail confirmation hearing, inflict massive collateral damage on military careers of every female officer who considered me their breakthrough pioneer. Option Bravo: reveal Daddy's deathbed direct order, completely destroy Sarah's idealized memory of our father, prove my absence followed explicit commands from the man she claimed to protect. Both courses of action guaranteed catastrophic casualties to family unit cohesion, but only one preserved the military advancement that Daddy had literally died ordering me to achieve. The tactical mathematics were brutal, but clear. The psychological warfare campaign escalated exponentially the following morning as Sarah launched her comprehensive media offensive with professional-level coordination. Her video compilation, titled General Patricia Rodriguez, the Daughter Who Forgot Where She Came From, achieved 2.3 million views by 0800 hours across multiple social media platforms. Military blogs, veteran forums, family values organizations were sharing it faster than Pentagon crisis management could develop counter-narratives. My phone displayed 47 missed calls from various media outlets requesting official response to family abandonment allegations that threatened to derail the most important military confirmation in American history. The psychological pressure was reaching levels that challenged my military training and stress management. Lieutenant Colonel Thompson briefed me on the expanding threat matrix during our 0900 secure communications session at a safe house outside Sweetwater. Ma'am, we're tracking hostile coverage across 17 major news platforms. Social media sentiment analysis shows 73% negative response to your public image regarding family values. Senate confirmation hearing is now considered at risk by Armed Services Committee staff due to political pressure from family values voters. Recommendation: immediate damage control operation required or mission failure is imminent. The 28 years I'd invested building military reputation or disintegrating in real time, while my own sister conducted more effective psychological warfare than foreign adversaries had ever achieved. My aide continued the tactical briefing with devastating precision that outlined the scope of strategic damage Sarah's operation was inflicting. Ma'am, we've identified the primary attack vectors. Sister's narrative is gaining traction because it reinforces existing bias against female military leadership. The assumption that women can't balance family and career like male officers. She's weaponized gender stereotypes against you more effectively than enemy propaganda because it comes from family source that appears credible to civilian population. The irony was crushing. My own sister had become more dangerous to my mission than foreign adversaries, who'd spent years trying to undermine American military leadership. The morning formation at 1,000 hours brought additional intelligence that fundamentally changed the tactical landscape of this family warfare operation. Thompson handed me the overnight communication from Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman with message that made my blood pressure spike. General Rodriguez, in light of recent family allegations circulating in media, committee requests your immediate response addressing work-life balance concerns before proceeding with confirmation hearing. American people deserve assurance that our military leaders maintain proper family values alongside operational excellence. Translation: prove you're not the heartless career woman your sister portrayed, or lose everything you've worked 3 decades to achieve. What Sarah couldn't calculate in her tactical planning was my access to resources she'd never considered during her intelligence gathering operation. Military intelligence network, psychological operations specialists, legal affairs officers who understood precisely how to conduct information warfare within legal parameters against civilian targets. She'd declared war on someone who'd spent 3 decades mastering exactly this type of strategic conflict at the highest levels of military command. The question wasn't whether I could defeat her, it was whether I should destroy my own sister to save my career and honor Daddy's final order. The moral complexity exceeded anything I'd encountered during combat operations against clearly identified enemy forces. The neutral witness who would validate my eventual counterattack was already positioned perfectly without Sarah's knowledge of his strategic importance. Chaplain Colonel James Morrison, 1st Cavalry Division, who'd served as Daddy's spiritual counselor during final months, possessed complete knowledge of Daddy's final communications with me, including the recorded video calls, where Daddy explicitly ordered me to prioritize military service over family obligations. Morrison's testimony would carry absolute credibility with both military and civilian audiences, but activating him meant revealing family secrets that would devastate Sarah's entire worldview about our father's actual wishes regarding my military advancement. I spent the next 6 hours conducting tactical planning in Daddy's workshop, surrounded by his Bronze Star citation and photographs from Desert Storm, while developing the most complex family psychological warfare operation of my military career. The evidence was overwhelming. Daddy had been documenting Sarah's emotional manipulation patterns for years, including recorded phone conversations where she'd promised to destroy Patricia's military career if he ever died before she could bring her home. He'd also maintained comprehensive files on his explicit instructions to medical staff, church officials, and family friends never to guilt me about military obligations during his final illness. The documentation would completely reverse Sarah's narrative, but the psychological impact on her would be catastrophic. The breakthrough intelligence came from an unexpected source during evening hours when Chaplain Morrison called my secure line with critical information that changed everything. General, your father left specific instructions with me about handling family conflicts after his death. He anticipated Sarah's reaction and prepared countermeasures. There's a safety deposit box at First National Bank of Sweetwater, box 1247, key hidden behind his Purple Heart display. He said you'd need the contents if Sarah ever tried to sabotage your military career. The old sergeant had been conducting psychological operations from beyond the grave, demonstrating strategic thinking that would make Sun Tzu proud. The contents of Safety Deposit Box 1247 would fundamentally alter the tactical balance of this family warfare operation. At 2200 hours, using Daddy's hidden key, I discovered a treasure trove of evidence that Sarah never knew existed. 12 handwritten letters, one for each year since my promotion to Brigadier General, documenting his pride in my military achievements and his specific instructions for Sarah to never interfere with my career progression. Sarah doesn't understand that military families serve differently, he'd written in his careful script. She thinks love means staying close, but I taught you that love means serving something bigger than yourself. Each letter was dated and contained detailed accounts of conversations where he'd explicitly told Sarah to leave me alone during critical career moments. The most devastating piece of intelligence was Daddy's final video recording, created specifically for the scenario with operational security that would impress CIA counterintelligence specialists. 23 minutes of him, in dress uniform, explaining his decision to keep his illness severity classified for me until after my confirmation hearing. Patricia is serving her country at the highest levels of military command, he stated directly into the camera with the authority of a combat veteran. Any interference with her career advancement dishonors everything I fought for in Desert Storm. Sarah means well, but she doesn't understand that military families serve differently than civilian families. My daughter's duty is to her nation first, her family second. That's how I raised her, and that's how it should be. The tactical advantage had just shifted completely in my favor as I reviewed Daddy's comprehensive psychological warfare plan against family interference. Sarah's entire media campaign was based on false intelligence about Daddy's actual wishes and feelings regarding my military service. She'd built her psychological warfare operation on emotional assumptions rather than factual documentation, making her vulnerable to complete tactical destruction when confronted with overwhelming evidence. Her credibility would be annihilated when the public learned that Daddy had explicitly ordered her not to interfere with my military advancement, and that he'd spent years preparing countermeasures against exactly the campaign she was now conducting. Lieutenant Colonel Thompson reviewed the new intelligence package during our 2100 hours planning session with the thoroughness of a special operations briefing. Ma'am, this documentation completely reverses the tactical situation. Your father's video testimony alone would neutralize all family abandonment allegations. Combined with medical records showing his explicit instructions not to contact you, plus recorded conversations revealing sister's premeditated sabotage plans, we have overwhelming evidence for complete media counteroffensive that would destroy her credibility permanently. The mission parameters had fundamentally changed within 6 hours of documentary discovery, but the ethical implications were staggering. But something in my military ethics training made me hesitate before launching full-scale tactical retaliation against my own sister during this family crisis. Rules of engagement require consideration of civilian casualties and proportional response protocols even during psychological warfare operations. Sarah was technically non-combatant who genuinely believed she was protecting Daddy's memory and honor through her media campaign. Revealing Daddy's true feelings about her interference would inflict psychological trauma equivalent to friendly fire incident on family member who dedicated years to caring for him during final illness. The moral complexity exceeded standard military decision-making parameters. The strategic timeline was accelerating beyond my ability to delay tactical decisions much longer without compromising mission success. Senate Armed Services Committee had scheduled final confirmation hearing for 0900 hours, March 20th, exactly 36 hours from current time. Media coverage had reached saturation levels where any delay would be interpreted as admission of guilt regarding family abandonment allegations that were destroying my reputation. Pentagon leadership needed immediate decision about whether to proceed with confirmation hearing or withdraw nomination to prevent institutional damage to military command structure and female officer advancement. My aide delivered the final intelligence update that would force immediate tactical decision during our 0200 hours emergency briefing. Ma'am, CNN has obtained exclusive interview with Sister Sarah for tomorrow morning's broadcast, scheduled to air 2 hours before your confirmation hearing. Preview clips show her making specific allegations about your refusal to answer father's deathbed calls and choosing Pentagon meetings over family funeral planning. Without immediate countermeasures, this narrative will dominate news cycle during your hearing testimony. The tactical timeline had just collapsed to mere hours for response operations that would determine my entire military legacy. Standing in Daddy's workshop at 0300 hours, surrounded by his military memorabilia and the evidence that would completely vindicate my choices while destroying Sarah's worldview, I reached the moment of ultimate tactical decision. Launch psychological warfare counteroffensive that would annihilate Sarah's public credibility but preserve my military career. Or accept personal defeat to protect sister who genuinely believed she was honoring Daddy's memory through her emotional manipulation campaign. Either choice would have permanent consequences for family unity and military advancement that extended far beyond my personal ambitions. The operational parameters were crystalline. I had 6 hours to decide whether to deploy Daddy's posthumous psychological warfare plan against my own sister to save everything we'd built together. The question wasn't whether I could win this battle. Daddy's evidence was overwhelming, and Sarah's position was completely indefensible once the truth emerged. The question was whether winning was worth the cost of psychologically destroying the only family I had left in the world. But Sarah had made one critical tactical error in her intelligence assessment. She'd underestimated what a four-star general would do when backed into a corner by family betrayal that threatened to destroy 3 decades of military service. At exactly 500 hours on March 20th, 2025, I initiated the most complex psychological warfare operation of my military career. Not against foreign adversaries, but against my own sister's misinformation campaign that threatened everything Daddy and I had built together. The tactical deployment began with precise timing that would achieve maximum strategic impact while maintaining the moral high ground throughout the engagement. Daddy's posthumous operational plan was more sophisticated than anything I'd developed during 3 combat deployments. He had anticipated every possible family conflict scenario and prepared comprehensive countermeasures for each contingency that could threaten my military advancement. The first tactical strike came through Military Times' exclusive release of Daddy's 23-minute video testimony at exactly 5:30 hours, delivered in full dress uniform with every ribbon and decoration positioned according to regulation standards. My daughter, Patricia, serves her country at the highest levels of military command, Daddy's voice echoed across every major news platform within minutes of release. Any interference with her career advancement dishonors everything I fought for in Desert Storm. Sarah means well, but she doesn't understand that military families serve differently than civilian families. The immediate media response was devastating to Sarah's narrative as news producers scrambled to reconcile emotional manipulation content with documented military veteran explaining actual family values. CNN's morning show producer called Lieutenant Colonel Thompson at 05:45 hours with emergency scheduling changes that confirmed our tactical success. Sarah's exclusive interview was suddenly competing with Daddy's authoritative testimony about family service obligations, forcing them to choose between emotional manipulation content versus documented military veteran explaining actual family values. The tactical timing was perfect. Sarah's 0700 hours interview would now appear as daughter contradicting her father's explicit final wishes rather than grieving family member exposing military career negligence. The psychological impact on her credibility would be immediate and irreversible. By 0000 hours, the second wave of evidence had achieved complete tactical penetration across all major media platforms with overwhelming force. Daddy's handwritten letters detailing his pride in my military achievements were displayed alongside medical directives explicitly prohibiting family notification during my operational assignments. Dr. Martinez from VA Medical Center confirmed on live television that Staff Sergeant Rodriguez specifically instructed medical staff never to contact his daughter during active military duties, stating that her service obligations took priority over his personal medical concerns. The factual foundation was overwhelming and completely contradicted Sarah's emotional narrative with documentary evidence that no media outlet could ignore. Sarah's psychological state during this evidence bombardment was visible in real time through her social media responses, confirming the devastating impact of Daddy's tactical plan. Her TikTok account showed increasingly frantic posts, questioning whether Daddy really meant those things, and asking followers to help me understand why he would lie to me about Patricia abandoning us. The cognitive dissonance was exactly what Daddy's operational plan had predicted. Sarah's entire worldview about family loyalty was collapsing as she realized her idealized relationship with our father had been carefully managed to protect my military advancement while providing her emotional validation through caregiving responsibilities. The third tactical strike at 0630 hours delivered the most devastating blow to Sarah's credibility,
through religious authority that civilian audiences would respect. Chaplain Morrison's live interview on Fox News revealed Daddy's specific concerns about Sarah's emotional manipulation patterns and his detailed preparations for countering family interference with my military career. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez was deeply troubled by his younger daughter's attempts to guilt Patricia about military service obligations. Morrison testified with complete religious authority that carried weight with conservative audiences. He spent considerable time developing strategies to protect Patricia's advancement while maintaining family harmony during his lifetime. The immediate tactical results exceeded operational projections as Sarah's media support network collapsed under the weight of contradictory evidence. Within 30 minutes of evidence deployment, Sarah's CNN interview was postponed indefinitely while producers attempted to verify contradictory information about family dynamics that had completely reversed their story narrative. Military news outlets were running continuous coverage of Daddy's actual family values versus Sarah's misinterpretation of abandonment. Veteran commentators explaining military family service obligations to civilian audiences. Veterans organizations immediately shifted support toward my confirmation, recognizing Daddy's testimony as authentic military family perspective on service obligations that honored both duty and family love. But the psychological impact on Sarah was more severe than tactical planning had anticipated, causing collateral damage that exceeded operational necessity. Her emotional breakdown was broadcast live through her social media accounts as she discovered recorded conversations where Daddy had explicitly told family friends that Sarah doesn't understand military life, but Patricia serves something bigger than personal comfort. The realization that her entire caregiving role had been partially managed illusion to protect my career caused complete psychological devastation that went beyond what I'd intended to inflict. The friendly fire casualties were more extensive than rules of engagement normally permit. At 0700 hours, the tactical advantage was so overwhelming that Sarah's media supporters began abandoning her narrative rather than contradict documented evidence from deceased military veteran. Local news stations in Sweetwater issued corrections to previous coverage, acknowledging they had incomplete information about family dynamics and military service obligations. Military families, who had initially supported Sarah's position, publicly apologized for questioning my service priorities without understanding Daddy's actual wishes about military obligation versus family comfort. The narrative reversal was complete and irreversible within 2 hours of evidence deployment. The strategic turning point came when Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman called my secure line at 0715 hours with confirmation that would validate Daddy's entire tactical plan. General Rodriguez, after reviewing your father's testimony and supporting documentation, committee members are satisfied that family service obligations were handled according to military veterans' explicit instructions. Your confirmation hearing will focus on military qualifications rather than family dynamics, and we expect unanimous approval for chairman position. The mission objective was achieved with complete tactical success that honored Daddy's final order to carry our family name to the summit. Lieutenant Colonel Thompson provided real-time intelligence updates showing comprehensive media narrative reversal within 2 hours of evidence deployment that confirmed the operation's total success. Social media sentiment analysis shifted from 73% negative to 68% positive regarding my military service versus family obligations. Military support networks were expressing overwhelming approval for Daddy's family management strategy and my compliance with his service-first directives. Foreign media outlets covering American military leadership noted the strong family military tradition rather than abandonment allegations, preventing exploitation of perceived military leadership weakness by hostile intelligence services. However, the personal cost of tactical victory was immediately apparent during my attempted communication with Sarah at 0800 hours, revealing the true price of psychological warfare against family members. Her response to my phone call was barely coherent through emotional trauma. "I can't believe Daddy let me think you abandoned us when he was telling you to stay away. Why would he let me hate you for following his orders? How could he watch me suffer for years knowing he caused it?" The collateral damage to family relationship was exactly what military ethical training had warned about regarding psychological warfare against civilian noncombatants who genuinely believed they were fighting for a righteous cause. The final tactical confirmation came during my 0900 hours Senate Armed Services Committee confirmation hearing, where Daddy's strategic plan achieved its ultimate objective. Committee members acknowledged Daddy's military service and family management strategy, while focusing questioning on strategic military capabilities rather than personal family dynamics that had dominated media coverage. Senator Williams opened proceedings by stating, General Rodriguez, your father's testimony about military family service obligations provides clear context for your career decisions. Let's discuss your qualifications for chairman of Joint Chiefs position. The family crisis was officially neutralized as confirmation obstacle. My testimony proceeded with complete professional confidence, answering strategic questions about NATO alliance management, Pacific theater military planning, and Defense Department budget optimization while maintaining military bearing throughout the proceedings. Committee members demonstrated respect for both my military qualifications and Daddy's family leadership philosophy that prioritized national service above personal comfort. The confirmation vote was unanimous, 15-0 in favor of advancement to Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, making me the first woman to achieve the highest military position in American history. Daddy's final mission was accomplished with complete tactical success. But personal victory came with devastating family casualties that would require years of healing to address properly, creating long-term strategic challenges for family relationship management. Sarah's public humiliation was complete. Her entire media campaign had been revealed as misunderstanding Daddy's actual wishes and military family values. The community supporters who had rallied around her narrative felt deceived and abandoned her cause immediately upon learning they had been fighting against deceased veterans' explicit instructions. Her social isolation was more complete than tactical necessity required for mission success. The operational aftermath required immediate damage control protocols to minimize long-term family destruction while preserving tactical gains from psychological warfare success that had achieved strategic objectives. I instructed Lieutenant Colonel Thompson to coordinate community support resources for Sarah's emotional recovery, including VA family counseling services and local military family support groups. The goal was helping her understand military family obligations without permanently destroying her sense of personal worth or relationship with Daddy's memory that had sustained her through years of caregiving responsibility. Post-operational analysis revealed that Daddy's family management strategy had been more sophisticated than either daughter understood during his lifetime, demonstrating strategic thinking that balanced competing family needs. He'd simultaneously provided Sarah with meaningful caregiving role and emotional validation, while protecting my military advancement from guilt-based interference that could compromise national security obligations. His posthumous psychological warfare plan demonstrated strategic thinking that balanced family harmony with mission protection, ensuring both daughters could serve family honor according to their different capabilities and obligations within military family structure. The final phase of operation required personal decision about ongoing family relationship management with Sarah following her complete tactical defeat and public humiliation during media warfare campaign. Military training emphasized mission accomplishment above personal comfort, but family obligations required more nuanced approach, balancing tactical victory with long-term relationship preservation that honored Daddy's love for both daughters. The question was whether family love could survive the truth about military service priorities and Daddy's strategic deception management that had protected us both from painful reality. At 12 o'clock hours, newly confirmed as chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, I returned to Sweetwater for the most difficult family conversation in Rodriguez's history that would determine our future relationship. Sarah was waiting in Daddy's workshop, surrounded by his military memorabilia and the evidence that had destroyed her understanding of family dynamics during the past 6 hours. Her first words would determine whether tactical victory could coexist with family reconciliation. I need to understand why Daddy chose your career over my feelings, and whether there's any way we can still be sisters after what happened today. The psychological warfare operation was complete, with total tactical success that achieved every strategic objective Daddy had planned. But family healing would require different skills than military combat training had provided. Sarah and I face the challenge of rebuilding relationship based on truth about military family obligations, rather than emotional manipulation and guilt-based interference that had damaged our bond for years. Daddy's final mission was accomplished, but our family's future remained uncertain. 3 months later, standing beside Sarah at Daddy's official military memorial service with full honors at Arlington National Cemetery, I realized his strategic vision extended beyond my career advancement to family healing and understanding. The 500 active duty personnel, veterans, and military families gathered to honor Staff Sergeant Miguel Rodriguez's service represented the military community that understood sacrifice and service obligations. Sarah now worked as military family advocate, helping other families navigate the complex balance between service duty and family love. We'd learned that sometimes the deepest family loyalty requires temporary separation to serve something bigger than personal comfort. Exactly what Daddy had taught us through his final psychological warfare operation that brought us together through temporary division. Roger that, Daddy. Mission accomplished. Your daughters finally understand what you were trying to teach us about love, duty, and sacrifice. The Rodriguez family name reached the summit, and we're still standing together. You, reading this story, would you have made the same choice I did? Sometimes the hardest battles are fought not against foreign enemies, but against the people we love most. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and duty to something bigger? I read every response from my fellow service members and military families.